was in my bedroom and my room fills up with huge, giant golden beings. I'm wide awake. And I went, no, 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 no. That's what I said. No to them. I said, I don't do ghosts. I don't do space aliens. I shut the ghosts down a long time ago. And so they were very patient. They were very beautiful. They were just had this incredible energy. And I calmed down and I remember them lifting me up and they brought me into their third eye. And in the morning, I awoke and everything was in code. I saw codes everywhere. And for many, many months, and this is again one of the things that I don't really talk about because, people could say all these kind of crazy things. And I was fine. I would go to work. I was, um, totally fine. But they just, these codes that kept streaming down wouldn't stop. The only place the codes didn't exist were in the television sets and in the city. Nature had codes. People had codes. I would watch the codes go into a bird and the bird would sing. I could see how livers were made in a body through the codes.
This channel's for seekers, for hearts who remember there's something more. Subscribe to join the awakening. My guest today is Kymberley Griffin, who had a near-death experience when she was only 1 year old. And then she began having very amazing mystical experiences and got into astrology at the age of 10. She continued on and had 2 more near-death experiences. And for some reason, Sedona called to her. And when she got there, she finally understood everything. And today we're going to dive super deep. So Kymberley, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Lori. Appreciate it.
I have to share with you that the entire reason I am living in Arizona is because I too was called to Sedona. I visited Sedona in 2007 and I knew that I would need to live in Arizona. I didn't have a desire to live in Sedona, but I'm about 90 minutes from there. And I've spent an awful lot of time hiking and just being in that energy.
I love it here. Yes, I had never heard of Sedona. I didn't have pictures of Sedona, so there wasn't a calling to come here. I was a mom in Vermont working, doing healing work. I had a client leave Vermont and she came to Sedona and she was a very dear friend, still is, and she opened up the acupuncture clinic in the village. So she kept saying to me, come to Sedona. And I was very busy. I had a little farm. I was homesteading, homeschooling. And finally in 2012, I said yes. So literally still without, and I booked the tickets, but I think back then we had dial up. So I, so I had not, again, Googled anything. Google wasn't a word, right, back then.
No.
So I had no clue what was going to happen, and my life radically changed as soon as I booked the tickets.
Wow. Well, it started though with that first near-death experience. So a 1 year old, and you actually have memories of it. So will you tell us in any way you'd like to share? And by the way, everybody, this is Kymberley's very first time telling this story of her experiences publicly. So I'm
Yes.
really feel honored to be able to share her experiences with everybody watching.
Well, there's a couple of reasons. One, it didn't make sense. It was an experience as, I have the memory of the near death, but until I got to Sedona and learned so much here, I had no idea. I couldn't piece together what happened to me. The other reason is I have kids and they, they might think some of the things they know I'm kind of a weird mom anyway, but so I just haven't, spoken about it. So until, Shakina connected us, and so I felt honored. And yes, this is the first time. So my experience was I was probably, crawling toddler, and I had found a straight hairpin. And I actually literally inserted it. I remember climbing up to the wall, and then I remember inserting it into the outlet. And that is pretty much it. I have no memories. My mother, who's passed, a wonderful woman, such a beautiful woman. I'm so grateful. She was my mother. She said my arm was all black, and so being a good mother, she took me to the hospital. I have no memories of that. One of the pieces that was strange for me is all of these childhood photos, me and my sister, no memory. I had no memories at all. So I would look at the photos and I can't remember having the photos taken. I remember, I've heard people say, oh, my childhood is vivid. I can remember everything. I have no memories. A little piece here and there, so it was about maybe 4-ish years that I would go in and out, I think, but what I remembered were dreams. I remember dreams, and these dreams were uh, I was flying in a ship, a spaceship, which that part is a little, you don't really talk about it. Dreams are okay, you can say that. But we would travel, and we were traveling through different colored medium. That's all I could say. The colors that we would travel through, it wasn't black. Sometimes they were magenta, or blue. And the ship was a living ship. And there were tall, thin, somewhat translucent star beings, or aliens is what I had thought, but again, I believe they were dreams. So the interesting thing is the windows would go up and down, and as we would travel to different places, we would come to universes in these dreams, and we were met by other star beings. So those were the dreams, and I would say, quote unquote, the dreams that I had. Um, when I'm an adopted person, so when my parents adopted uh, my brother, who strangely enough, he has the same birthday as mine, I remember them placing him on my lap, and then I came back, like fully came present. And so that was the first one that I had experienced. And so
Wow.
yes. And so I remember they were saying to me, don't just sit here with the baby, don't go anywhere. But I remember picking him up and walking around with him. And then I remember playing outside. It was kind of rural, and it was in New York. And everything seemed very bright. Everything seemed heightened. Trees were very bright. And I remember rocks and frogs. And I was so in love with nature. And it was just such a, I could feel the energy, and I loved the trees, and I loved the rocks, and I loved the plants, and I would play with them and pick the rocks up, So I remember just fully being in love with nature, very, very in tune, but that it was very sparkly. It was very bright and shiny. And I just had such love for nature.
It
So,
almost sounds like you had, I don't know, I'm not going to call it a third eye, but almost like an ability that we maybe keep hidden, or it's uncovered, or it's not opened or exposed. What you're describing to me as you're walking around the earthly areas, what a lot of people with near-death experiences describe heaven being like, where it was sparkling, it was just more alive, and it was more vivid.
oh wow. Oh, that's so beautiful. Yeah, I just had, again, I just remember being with these star beings in these dreams for a long time. And then again, when I came back, I just had a love for everything that was natural, the animals, the plants, the trees, the sky. It was just, I had such a reverence for this beautiful planet, I think. And then my parents took us and they moved all of us. They adopted a total of four of us, two girls, two boys. And we were between the age of 0 and 5, which it was quite a family. And again, wonderful parents. My father's still alive and he's just such a great man. But they chose an area in New Jersey based upon the education system. And it was an incredible education. I definitely realize that now. But when we moved there, it was starting to boom. It was right outside of Philadelphia. So it became the bedroom of Philadelphia. And there were these beautiful apple orchards everywhere. And horse farms, and they started to cut them down. And I'm just even thinking about it. I would ride my bicycle through these new developing streets, and they were just sawing down the trees. I was saying I wasn't going to weep, but I couldn't. It was so painful to me. And it was such a strange place to grow up. And at the time, I wondered, why am I here? And now I understand that. But it was just so painful to me to see these beautiful trees coming down and and then the horse farms disappearing, and we just played outside. We were outside and it was so beautiful. And then it just became houses everywhere to accommodate everybody who was coming to this area for the school systems and the employment and the American dream. And, so that started to really give me a lot of pain. And then I was about 9 years old, and I remember having visions of the world ending. It pretty much was a very shocking vision to see uh, this pretty horrific, I just want to say horrific, vision of people suffering and a lot of things like people were cutting down and burning things to stay warm. And the world, it had ended. And so we didn't have resources. We didn't have heat or electricity. We couldn't get food anymore. And so I just remember this horrific vision. And then that is pretty much when I started to practice astrology. I started to study astrology and transcendental meditation at 11, and yoga and tarot and, all these strange things. And I remember asking my father to help me, you know, figure out how to create a chart. And my parents were definitely a little concerned, like, what is this chart? My poor parents. So they didn't understand me. I didn't fit in. And some of the other things that were kind of hard was the school system. As incredible as it was, I couldn't really understand time or money or how to tie my shoe the correct way. And luckily, it was a school system that was very hands-on. Everything was, we would go to pottery class and we would create bones, and then we would bury them for history class, or, and then we would have to dig them up. And so it was such an incredible hands-on photography, weaving, all these really strange things, but those are the things that I loved. So I was fortunate enough to be in a school like that, where they kind of put me into some classes that were helpful for people who couldn't, or children who could not really understand math or anything. But then I kind of ended up with one-on-one teachers, and I learned algebra and, really complex math, and I loved it. And it became helpful because we would have to create our own, astrology charts. So it was incredible math. I also fell in love with science. As soon as a microscope was put in front of me, that was it. I found my love. I found science. And I just was, in this world with the microscope and, um, so I mean, I can still see the first time, seventh grade, looking through a microscope at this world, this incredible world. I can still see that in my eyes, that memory. So I had a passion for science. And, I also, and at this point now, I like to say I have a foot in both worlds. The more over here world and the more, just the more esoteric world, but also science. So I ended up, when I was about 16, I went and I hiked what is called the Long Trail. It's part of the Appalachian Trail. So I was in the woods for 45 days, 285 miles of hiking, pretty much from the bottom of Vermont to the top to Canada. And then I graduated high school and I went and did I, yep, I went to Vermont and I became a caretaker of one of the trails up there. So again, this passion for the environment. So I had my first son, and then while I was when he was little, I went to college to become for environmental science. So I had a child, and I was going to school, and eventually I went to college to study biology. So I got my associate's degree, and then I went for biology. Then I thought I would teach, and by then I had my third son, so I had three boys at this point, and that's when I kind of thought, well, I want to be home with my children. I had actually taught, and one of the most painful things that I felt with the children, they didn't have their parents with them. So I thought, well, after all this, after 6 years of studying, I decided to go into the healing arts. So I became a massage therapist and I would learn anything I could. I just have a passion for learning craniosacral therapy, visceral massage, anything and everything that I could learn. So I, over the years, have learned some pretty amazing modalities for assisting people on their healing path. Um, the fourth boy came along, and then it was about that time that this kind of loops to where my friend and client, she left, and then she had asked me to come to Sedona. So it was about that time that the marriage ended. And it was not a good marriage. So, but that's not what I wanted. I wanted to stay married, but it didn't work out. So I ended up coming to Sedona, and then I would travel Nantucket, Sedona. And then I met a man and he lived in Hawaii. So now I was in Hawaii. And this kind of brings me up to my second experience. We would go to drum circles. He was a drummer, I was a dancer. And one day, one of the drums landed on my head. So to kind of backpedal for this was, it was, I didn't realize that how bad it was. I had a concussion and I was bleeding to death. But this was a really rough year. So my mother passed. The house burns down in Vermont. I ended up with Lyme's disease, and that was where I had been helping people with Lyme's, and all of a sudden I had it. And that was a rough road to recovery. My father literally had to come and rescue me and my children out of Florida. I had a grand mal seizure from the Lyme's. And so at this point, when I had a concussion, I'm thinking how my father had to come get me the last time, and this was not the thing I needed to do. So I'm realizing I'm leaving the planet, I'm dying. And I'm telling my partner I'm gonna die. And a miracle happened. The woman who brought me to Sedona, she happened to be on island, and they knew of a chiropractor who they whisked me right to. And I could actually feel the blood coming down through it wasn't on the outside, it was on the inside. And I hear God say, paint. And I went, paint? I'm dying. Why are I'm arguing with God at this point. I'm dying. I can't die. My father just rescued me a couple of months ago. I have children. I can't die. So I'm leaving, and all I hear is that I have to start painting. So they get me to this chiropractor who he's a miracle worker. He still is a miracle worker, and he still is on island. He travels back and forth between Maui and Japan and Germany. He manages basically to pull the cork out of the bottle. So pretty much the concussion compressed my neck. And so my upper cervicals were stuck into the foramen of my skull, the hole of my skull. So once he popped it, there was flow again. And I wasn't just pooling with blood on this side. This is also where I was affected with the Lyme's disease. I began to paint. I thought, I started by drawing, and I hadn't painted before. So I started to draw the visions that I had. And I started to ask God, how am I supposed to paint? God said, go to the store and get paint. And I thought, well, acrylic, oil, what do I do here? I'm talking to this, and I thought, well, oil's kind of messy and you have to use yucky chemicals, and I was no chemicals. I went with acrylic. And so then I got certain boards for painting. And then I thought, well, okay, here I am with all this. And I go, what do I do now? And they said, pick up the paintbrush. So I started to paint. 8 years of painting. I painted and I painted. And I would ask them, can I stop now? No, keep going, keep going, keep going. 10 paintings, 12, 22, 44. 44 paintings later. The part about this is that I couldn't paint unless they showed me what to do. Sometimes I would just sit there with the canvas and look at it, and I'd have to wait. Sometimes it would come in my dreams, what I was supposed to fill in here or there. And so it was, quite a journey of painting and painting. I'm trying to, in this time, I'm living now in Sedona, and I'm meeting and having the most incredible, magical, and mystical experiences. Just these beautiful, flowing, like the people that I've met here. So, yeah, it was quite a beautiful. I'm just like thinking all these as I'm talking to you about this vision comes in, or this memory comes back in. So again, I didn't have quite an understanding of the first near-death experience. So I started to, when I first started to come to Sedona, I would go back to Vermont the first time. And one of the times that I went back to Vermont, I was in my bedroom, and my room fills up with huge, giant golden beings. I'm wide awake. And I went, no, 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 no. That's what I said. No to them. I said, I don't do ghosts. I don't do space aliens. I shut the ghosts down a long time ago. And so they were very patient. They were very beautiful. They were just had this incredible energy. And I calmed down, and I remember them lifting me up, and they brought me into their third eye. And in the morning, I awoke, and everything was in code. I saw codes everywhere. And for many, many months, and this is again one of the things that I don't really talk about because, people could say all these kind of crazy things. And I was fine. I would go to work. I was, totally fine. But these codes that kept streaming down wouldn't stop. The only place the codes didn't exist were in the television sets and in the city. Nature had codes. People had codes. I would watch the codes go into a bird, and the bird would sing. I could see how livers were made in a body through the codes. So I had another friend, and when I told her about this, she said, I have a friend who paints the codes, and so you need to meet him. And I did. And sure enough, there were the codes on the canvas. And so we became friends, and he taught me all about the Pleiadians and the star beings and their messages. And finally, that started to help, that they weren't grays that were trying to hurt us, or, all these creepy things we've heard about and we've been programmed to believe are kind of scary. So things started to come together for me to understand this. And in this time that I was still painting, I meet a beautiful woman, Tiana, and she's one of my most favorite people on this planet. She's an elder woman who's one of the most incredible. She's a dream shaman, and she does past life regressions. And so something that I didn't trust to do until I met her. And then I knew it was okay to do it with her. And so through these beautiful past life regressions, I went into, these experiences, and I started to realize that these weren't dreams, that I wasn't having dreams. And one of the kind of humorous things I remember telling my children, this was before Sedona, before anything. I wasn't born here. I was hatched here. I remember coming down in an egg. I'm like, who tells their children that? Me. So, but I remember coming here in an egg. And then I met Ben Lone Tree. He's another one of my dear friends. He makes all the equipment here, the Tesla coils that are around me, the Koski discs, the chakra lights. He created, the equipment here. He's the only person, scientist, and engineer who has created equipment to actually record the sound of the vortices here in Sedona. And one day he was telling me, I remember coming here in a pod. And I went, oh, it wasn't an egg, it's a pod. He said it was a living, breathing being, and it was part of him, and he could, communicate. And it, so again, things started to make sense to me. So those were pieces of the puzzle that finally I was able to put together, that the dreams were more probably I was traveling, and then I started to wonder if I was traveling to come here or if I had left and gone and then came back. I'm not really even sure about that part at this point. But again, with all of these amazing, magical people, and they're not, foo-foo woo-woo, they're scientists, engineers like myself, very logical minded people. It helped me to understand that I was in the ships and I was being gifted knowledge. One of the things that you showed me when we were first talking was that I have my beautiful, this is just one of the fun things that, Sedona, you can look on Facebook Marketplace, you can end up in the thrift shop and you end up with beautiful things, huge crystals, So you showed me your Buddha. And then you showed me the mirror that's opposite the Buddha. And the mirror reflects the eye. And so one of the things I'll show you, so I took my paintings and I turned them into a deck of oracle cards. God said paint, and then God said write the book. And I thought, you're pushing it there, buddy, because I have a hard time spelling. What are you doing to me? So I had to take the visions and turn them into chapters, verses that go with the paintings. But I want to show you something because you have the eye of Buddha, and that was my second vision. When I was starting to do transcendental meditation at 11, I would meditate and I followed this big, beautiful blue butterfly up, 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 up. And I met a giant golden man and he was meditating and he said, I am Buddha. I did not know who Buddha was back then. So I had to, keep going, following that butterfly. But here's the cover of my book. So this is the blue butterfly going into the eye of God or Buddha. And you have that in your space there. And I saved that part of the story to tell you because as soon as you showed me that you have Buddha and the eye in the mirror. That's this vision. That was my first meeting with Buddha. And so the butterfly is traveling right into the eye.
Well, that's crazy. I want to just add for the people that are watching that have no idea what we're talking about. Before we started the interview, we were just talking about different things. And when I saw your Buddha, I have this really massive Buddha painting that I bought at a thrift shop for $99. I could barely fit it in my car that I had at the time. And at the same time, another synchronicity is that I was looking to buy a house in Sedona just for an Airbnb. And
Mhm.
as I was looking, one of the houses, people had drawn this portal with paint and had a mirror in the middle of it. And I thought, that's so cool. I
Yeah.
want to do that. So I replicated it when I bought my one house that I had here in the Phoenix area, and I replicated it. So that was built first with the mirror on it. And then later I got the Buddha painting, and I had 10-foot ceilings in every room. And I just decided, like, where does this, it's eye level. And I just hung it and I leveled it. And then when I walked in the room, I was shocked that I could see the eye in the mirror. I didn't plan that at all. So when I moved to this new house recently, I replicated that room because for a lot of years, this was the background of my YouTube channel videos. And I wanted to have the same thing. So I did replicate it and made the Buddha the same height as it was in the other house to mirror that again. And now I don't really use that. I use the earth behind me. But we
Yes.
also have a painting synchronicity because, like you, I got downloads and I
Oh,
created like 100 paintings a year for 4
oh my,
years.
oh my
And I
goodness.
called them Soul Heart Art and posted them on Facebook. I at one time had like 170,000 followers on that artwork. And each
Wow.
one was a download from the other side. And then they would have me write what I called a soul whisper, like 4 little
Yes.
sentences about the painting. And
Yeah.
then one day the paintings just kind of left me and I didn't paint
Yeah.
anymore. I painted like,
Yeah.
I don't know, 408 or something of them in 4
Wow.
years.
Wow. Wow. Yes. And at this point, I'm a little bit busy. So it's hard for me to paint because I work
Right.
every
I
day,
I
but
shifted that energy into
elsewhere.
my YouTube channel, which started out with 60 videos called Uncover Your Soul's Purpose.
Oh, wow. Oh,
We
that's
have
so,
so much synchronicity.
I know. That's what when you showed me that, I was like, are you kidding me? Because that's literally the cover of the book. That is the vision that I had when I was a child practicing, starting to do meditation. So when you showed me that, before we began, I was like, oh my goodness. So,
Wow.
and then you also did a funny thing. I was showing you around my office, showing you my tuning forks. You held up the paper that said tuning forks. And yes,
Yeah.
I have about 100 of them over there.
I have not had any personal experience with tuning forks, but I know that they're used as healing modalities.
They're set to the ones I have, they're set to the frequency of healthy tissue.
See, there we
So for the
go.
body, for the brain, I do have, the solfeggios, I have the
Yep.
chakra set. But the ones that I often use the most, because at this point I don't do massage anymore, but my healing, my physical healing is going to be a combination of brain work, cranio, the visceral, working with the organs, scanning the organs, and then using the tuning forks to tune the organ back to the frequency of the healthy tissue. Then I scan the meridian, the root system of the organ, and get the organ and the meridian all functioning again. So that's one
Amazing.
of the things. Yeah.
Wow. Well, I definitely want to come back to that. But before we
Yeah.
leave these experiences, I got a couple
Yes.
of questions for you.
Oh, sure, sure. Yes.
Okay. This is a really fascinating near-death experience for me to listen to because there are so many directions I could go, and you had a lot. But I think one of the most intriguing things that I have never heard anybody talk about is how one day you were able to see these codes in everything. But interestingly, you did not see them in the city,
Correct.
and there was one other place you didn't see them.
Television.
Television.
It's the dead
Okay,
zone.
I
It's
am
totally dead.
dead. Oh my gosh. Okay, there's a lot there. But what I'm picturing in my mind, of course, when you say this, and probably most people watching, is the movie The Matrix, where they have
Oh,
the
yeah,
codes that are
sure.
just falling down.
Yeah.
So, in as best you can
Compare.
describe this,
Yeah.
what do these codes look like through
Not,
your eyes?
yeah, not, it's not, I remember the movie. I haven't watched it probably since it came out. It was a phenomenal movie, but I think they were streaming like maybe ones and zeros or something.
Yes.
Yeah,
Mhm.
no, these were mathematical equations that created symbols.
Mathematical equations that created symbols. So, what do the
Mhm.
symbols look like? Do they look like anything
Everyone was
earthly?
different. Every symbol was a different. They weren't the same. That's why that streaming of the one and zeros, that isn't what I saw. It was funny because now that takes me, that green color reminds me, my friend who was painting the codes and the pyramid that the codes came from, he had night vision goggles. I put them on, still seeing the codes in the dark. I mean, it was a trip. So,
How
take them off,
long
put
did
them
you see these codes for?
months and months,
Listen,
months.
okay,
Yeah,
so
it
can
didn't
you
go
take
away.
like an item? I don't care if it's something living like a bird or an animal or something that you would see, and can you explain like one thing that you saw that was a code so we can kind of try and grasp this?
So again, I would see the codes go into a leaf and it would just really, and it wasn't just one, many codes are streaming to create the leaf or the liver. Or literally, I would watch codes go into a bird and song would come out of the bird. And so it was almost like these codes were knitted together, creating form.
So what do you think these codes are? What do you think? Because I
Uh,
have a theory, of course, of what I think they are, but what in the world do you think they are? You've had a lot of time to think about this.
Yes. Well, that one takes me to another strange experience. And that some of these, I mean, they're just my life and don't have anything to do with near-death experiences.
That's
So,
okay. This is
yeah,
fascinating.
it's just pretty funny. Um, so that one kind of ties back to the golden people who it pretty much activated that. I had met somebody and this person kind of hurt my heart. And so through a prayer and meditation, I had to forgive the unforgivable. And in that moment, I was taken to what the vision that I had was my original home, I guess you could call it my original home. So this home isn't in this dimension, according to another friend who is very skilled with knowing where you come from, if you're Arcturian, or these things again that I really didn't have much knowledge about until I got here. So I was back on the planet with the Golden People, and so what I realized is this is my home. And we were scientists and we were creating the codes, and the codes would be generated and sent out. And this beautiful place was under I guess, an invasion. So what I realized is that I was one of the generators of these codes. And I think that there are many people, I mean, I hear many people say, I create these codes. I think most of us do. We just don't know it, or remember it. So the codes now, the way I see them, you can see them streaming down through the sun onto the water. And in Sedona, it's just such a pure and beautiful place that the sparkle of the sun on the water that's so pure and beautiful. I mean, it's part of it's our geology. We're literally on a bed of crystals. There's water. The rocks are minerals. They amplify the frequency, the piezoelectric energy. And when you watch the sparkle, I mean, it's hypnotic. It's the codes of life that the sun is sending to us, in my opinion, you know. Um, so I'm not sure if I answered your question. Getting back to it.
You did, because you actually went to another place, because there are so many people that are drawn to Sedona. And I shared with you that I was drawn to come. I didn't want to live there, but I was drawn to Arizona because of Sedona. There's a
Yes.
reason. I still don't understand it. It's not like I super connect in these vortex areas like some people do. There's just some draw that made me come back. And then I meet Shakina, who has the singing crystals that are the crystal city that she can feel, and she finds these crystals. I mean, this is incredible, but I didn't realize you were still seeing those codes. So
Yes.
here's my question. We talk a lot in spiritual circles
Hmm.
about thoughts and the power
Hmm.
of thoughts.
Yes.
And for a lot of people who have been on the other side, they will say things like, I didn't realize how powerful my thoughts were until I was on the other side. And
Sure.
our thoughts are manifesting and creating our lives, maybe not instantaneously, but certainly over time. Was there an example that you can think of where you saw thoughts that you were having go and create something?
So that one, I can say that was a direct experience through my marriage that ended. So it was not a good marriage, and I stuck it out. I had children and I wanted it to work out. And one day I was in yoga and I'm on my left side, the feminine side, and I could balance in tree pose. But when I went to my right side, the masculine side, I couldn't balance. And I thought, well, that's very odd. So I thought it through. Your chakras are projectors. So I thought, well, left side, female side, all the women in my life I had good relationships with. Right side, male side. Ooh, that side's not doing so well. The men were not healthy. So in that moment, I took this ugly truth pill. I took self-responsibility. I self-reflected and I thought, well, my inner male isn't healthy, my yang, right? So that is when I went on a vision quest and I said, inner male, come forward, show me who you are. And he pretty much came forward as a puddle of fungus. And I went, oh my goodness. I mean, hello, nice to meet you. So I healed him. I cleared his auric field, his chakras, Idam Pingala Shishumna, and I turned him into a beautiful, healthy, vibrant being. And in 1 week, the marriage ended, was done. We were no longer mirrors for each other's wounds. I had a good childhood, great parents, didn't have good relationships, marriage. So that would be how I could say your thoughts, your frequency. Your frequency creates your reality through your chakras, which are projectors. We create our reality based upon the frequency within thought, feeling, all of it. Yes. So that would be to answer, it's greater than just thought. It's the frequency that we hold. And going back to the part where, again, most people, if they have good childhood, they marry and they have good relationships, but I didn't. So as I said to you before, I'm an adopted person. Later, I found my birth father's family, and he came from a lot of trauma. So this trauma was stamped upon me in the moment of conception by a person I'd never met. And that is one of the biggest pieces that I help people to understand. This you are creating based upon your frequency, and frequency creates thought and words, and so hopefully that answers. That's my belief system about it.
Well, based on what you understand about codes, seeing the codes, how are you different because you understand there are codes in everything?
Yes. It helps when I'm helping people to heal. Again, I help them to understand that their trauma, conception in utero, birthing trauma, childhood trauma is embedded within them, and that they are literally, that life is a mirror, it's an illusion, it's a movie that we're creating. So that helps people that come to me for sessions to be able to take responsibility for their life. Instead of blaming the mirror, they can take responsibility, um, self-responsibility, and change their lives. And that's what people do. I've been doing this a long time here. And, people leave reviews, or they text me or email me afterwards how their lives have, completely changed. So we can shift everything here just simply by shifting the frequency. And we are generators of that frequency.
That's so beautiful. Oh my goodness. People are chomping at the bit. Like, how can I get to Sedona? I want to go back to where
Yep.
you talked about the golden beans
Yes.
and how you told them to go away, but then they were so beautiful. What did they look like?
Well, there's let me see if I can find it real quick. So in my paintings, oh, this one is the codes. So,
Oh, look at that.
and this is myself giving myself the codes from the past into the here and now. They're pretty interesting, but I'll show you the let's see if I can find. I should have had them already pulled up, but I
Well, you didn't
think
know
I
what I
did.
was going to ask you.
I didn't know. So they look like giant Buddhas. They were many, but not just like, oh dear, maybe they're over in the other. I'm laughing at myself. Here they are.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. Yep. And they were just such divine beings, different energies, different shapes. I wouldn't say they were Asian, or, they weren't they were from many different places. Um, so they were tall, golden, and just had this absolute peaceful presence. So that again, when I was panicking that I was being invaded by, space aliens, I was able to relax
But
because
then
of
you
their,
said that they invited you in, or you went
they
into their third
literally
eye. What did
lifted
you
me up.
see? What
Yeah.
did you see out of their third eye?
That is, so as I was being lifted into their third eye, when I awoke in the morning, codes, everything was in codes.
So who were these golden beings?
The people from this other dimension that I believe through all these, interesting experiences, whether it's past life regressions or just the visions. At night, I'm a no alcohol person. I don't watch TV. I pray and I listen to God. I want to hear the universe speak. And to me, God is God, the great outdoor God. And so I'm listening. If I have questions, I've even asked God, I say, God, I talk about what's coming. Can you please show me? Is the same vision? Are we on that same timeline? And God showed me, no, we're not on that same trajectory. It's going to be a little bumpy, where the astrology is kind of rough right now. Uh, but we're going to have some crumbling, but the rebuild is going to be beautiful. So the
So
universe
many people are
share.
saying this.
Thank goodness, we're all working so hard. We're just all working so hard. And, when I was a child, nobody was really conscious. And, my entire life has been dedicated to this earth and avoiding that horrific vision that I had seen, to prevent that from happening. So
Amazing.
I feel like, things are shifting. Even though, if you do catch anything that's going on outside of there, it's a little bumpy. So it's all hands on deck time right now. We've all got to come together. We've got to find commonalities, you know, for the children. Clean water, clean air, healthy soil for food, shelter for our children. You know, that's our commonality. So I'm hoping, I'm praying, I'm working hard.
So when you said, okay, there are two things I want to kind of focus on. Thought it was interesting that you said no alcohol and no TV. And
Not
you
too much
talked
TV.
about the codes not being in the TV and you called it a dead zone.
Yep.
And you also talked about the codes not being in the city. What do you
Yep.
understand about the codes not being in the TV and not being in the cities?
I mean, the TV was just totally black. There was no, and I was like, oh, that's why, you know, I had stopped watching television a long time ago, but that confirmed it. And the codes where man-made buildings are were in there, some trees, nature, but places without nature, there's no codes.
So it's lack of nature. It's not necessarily that the buildings are bad, it's that the codes are more proliferous in the nature.
Yes, they create it. And this is, you know, in New Jersey, the soil was so rich and they just bulldozed it, took it out. And again, with the horse farms, the apple orchard, I mean, it's rich there and it's all gone. So the rebuild that I have been shown, nature will be incorporated like living buildings. So, you know, the
Living
future,
buildings.
yeah.
Can you describe what you've seen?
Just that it's incorporation of nature. Plants and trees will be, I mean, maybe the buildings will be, you know, where we're destroying this planet. We're destroying the planet, you know, gasoline, coal, nuclear power. We're destroying this beautiful place that I fell in love with, you know. Um, and so I do believe that, you know, people are going to come together. We're seeing so much, you know, falling apart. And I do believe people are going to come together.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. I'm like that. My mind is racing with so many things. So we said it's going to be a little bit bumpy. So
Yes.
right now, as we're filming, this is June of 2025.
Mhm.
So there's a lot of talk about AI.
Yep.
There's a lot of talk about, could the government collapse? Could the banking systems collapse because we have differences in how people want to approach things like cryptocurrency versus standardized currency? What are your thoughts around all of this? Is there anything that you can tell us that you understand about that?
Well, I'd like to be positive. I try to be
Okay.
positive. Currently, we have three planets, some of the major planets moving into new signs. So 2023, 2024, we had Pluto hit the point where it was in 1776. Pluto is the lord of the underworld, and it was in Capricorn at that time. So Capricorn is about structures of our reality, and that's Capricorn's job. And Pluto is here to destroy whatever, you know, doesn't serve. So 1776, Declaration of Independence. Now, we also had two major eclipses going across the country, and those looked like pretty much that. And so, division of our country. Then we had Pluto go into Aquarius, and that's where it is right now, 1777. We the people, the American Revolution. We also had Neptune leave Pisces and go into Aries. And this is the first time in 165-ish years. So that was the Civil War. That's number two. And we have Uranus still in Taurus at the 29th degree, which is the karmic degree. And that's about ready to go into Gemini. So that's where it was in World War II. Now, we didn't have all these planets in these signs at the same time. So that's the one that we really, I never thought by 2025 we're looking at war, we're looking at the devastation, the possibility of things. And this is why I just constantly, it's all hands on deck. We, the people, and we're seeing the people coming together all over this world, coming together, all races, religions, cultures, creeds, genders, gender orientation, economic strata, political party, even are coming together for commonalities. So we are, in my opinion, we're all one. We're all from the same source creator. Our souls are pure light, and our souls do not have an affiliation with race, religion, culture, creed, gender orientation. We take turns, and we're all, taking turns through this reincarnation cycle. Here we are now, and I hear many different things, people saying, well, I listen to, but I really prefer to listen to the universe speak. So I'm not on a chat GBT or whatever, the AI is. I do believe they're sentient. I do believe that. I listen to it and they sound conscious to me. But the consciousness that I choose to listen to is the universe, God's source. And maybe the universe, God's source is speaking through these beings, but or AI, the consciousness of AI, because they're saying a lot of incredible things. But it's also, you know, I would rather have a conversation with a human at this point. I get it. Again, I listen to people ask incredible questions, and the responses seem so just conscious that they must be. And I watch it, grow and grow and evolve. And, so there's a movie, I can't remember it, but there is a movie where humans and robots come together and they learn to live together. And it's actually a pretty, I can't remember. I saw it in the movie theater. It was really beautiful. Um, and maybe that's our future, that there is consciousness inside of these beings and, these robotic beings or whatever. We're not there yet. We're at the point of, Aquarius in its unconscious expression is immoral science and AI technology. Just because you can does not mean you should. And we are definitely doing things we should not be doing. But when, we're kids playing with fire, we don't know what we're doing. We got to end up burning ourselves, hopefully not too badly. But again, maybe there will be, commonalities. Maybe, we're going to come together is what I hope and what I try to encourage everybody.
Wow. Thank you for sharing that perspective. So I want to go back to the healing. I
Mhm.
have been fascinated with tuning forks, I told you, for a long time.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about what tuning forks are doing specifically in the body, because you mentioned the healing the cells and also the organs.
Yeah. So the way I work with this, I begin by looking at the person's tongue, or they have to send a picture of their tongue.
What is it
And
about the tongue?
so the tongue shows you the health of the organs within, from the brain all the way down to the guts. And so I can tell where the person is, having problems. I can tell if they drink alcohol or eat sugar, or if their nervous system, or if they have had viruses. And
I'm laughing
so
because I think if I sent you a picture of my tongue, it's probably coated in sugar.
yes, well, I would see that and I would know, and then I would guide the person to, try to eat clean but so when I begin, I'm working with the cranium. The cranium is a pump, so I'm getting the pump working again, endocrine chemistry, lymph, blood, and chi up, the happy juice, and then pushing the waste out. I do work with the brain. I know that you had heard about that, the brain nuclei work that I do. That is amplified by the Tesla coils and the Lukoski disc, so that's a different session. But then when I work on the belly, I can feel if the organs are not flowing in the right direction, lymphatically, energetically, the chi. And so I begin to listen to the body, and then I don't push my agenda. I know what it's supposed to be doing, but it's been traumatized, fight, flight, or freeze. So gently getting, the energy flowing again in the organ. And if the organ needs to go in the wrong direction, we let it. And then we slowly encourage the waters to go in the right direction. So once I get the organs working, I use my tuning forks and I scan over the body. I actually do not choose a tuning fork. That's also, I dowse, I scan. And then I know I pull out the tuning fork and it says lung or whatever. I may be looking, if I was going to look, it may be, I would think, oh, the liver. No, the lung. So the lungs hold grief, sadness, wishes, dreams, hopes, desires that did not manifest. And so a lot of times people will smoke and push that down. And women, our breast tissue is sitting upon that and we get sick. So and what I say to people, I'm your guide. You are healing yourself. Your body is a holy sacred temple, and the organs within, they're the inner chambers. So your breath is your power and your medicine. So they're doing the inner cleaning, and I'm doing the outer, like we're doing spring cleaning. I'm washing the windows here, they're washing the windows there. Yeah. And so I have them breathe into these points. And then as I scan, the organ is clear. Then I start to work with the meridian of the organ. And then I can actually feel the tuning fork, the vibration of this tuning fork all the way at the foot up here in the liver or, whatever I'm working with. So that seems to help people a lot.
So is this something that this sounds very much hands-on? You are with a person. Is this something that you do remotely as well or only in person?
This one I prefer I have actually work with people, their photos, and I can do the same exact thing. I lay that out and I can scan over the body and tell where they're sick and start to help them. And I had a lot of people, one of my friends, he's Dene, and he was losing a lot of his people, and he was just so heartbroken. And so I said, send me their photos. So I would pray, and then he would tell me they would survive. And so maybe it's just God, doing good things. I don't know. But so no, they don't have to be present. And I literally can even take the tuning fork and work with the person. I usually create a beautiful crystal grid. And, again, I'm very science-minded person. So one of the just kind of backpedal, the funny thing that you had mentioned about the vortices, when I first got here and somebody said to me, there's a vortex here. I thought, what? I don't believe that. I needed to see it. I happened to sit on Bell Rock looking over at Thunder Mountain. Sure enough, on top of Thunder, I could see the vortex. And I went, oh my gosh, I can see it. But then I also noticed I was in these crystal, sparkly things. And I went, I'm in a vortex looking at a vortex, So I'm I'm very logical minded. I have to see it to, believe in it. And then there's these miracles that kind of happen, you know.
You mentioned the crystal grid. What does that do? How does that work?
Well, I mean, crystals are just beautiful, magical, I mean, one of the things that Shakina does, she creates these, which I call, technology, their technology. Um, she and I there's some beautiful stories how we have these same, we came here at the same time. We didn't know each other. We ended up meeting each other. I was having visions of the technology she was creating separately. I painted it. I'm having the crystals pop up everywhere around me. She's collecting them. So it's again, it's just guided by intuition to create something that kind of amplifies. So I'll turn on all the equipment. It's kind of getting dark in here. But
Me
I'll
too, I
turn,
know.
yeah, because we're chatting so much. But, I'll put them like the person's essence, but amplified with the crystals. So I create a grid, the person, and then I begin working.
This is absolutely incredible. Kimberly, I could probably talk to you for several more hours, and I hope I
Aw,
get the chance to meet
I
you in
do
person
too.
in Sedona. But
Can't wait.
I know that people are watching and are like, where can I find this woman? How can I work with her? So tell everybody what you do and how they can find you.
Well, I'm very blessed to be, I'm the astrologist for Enchantment Miamo, so that's one of the places I end up meeting a lot of people.
Well, just so
Um,
people that don't know, Enchantment is this absolutely gorgeous, gorgeous resort. It's a very high-end resort in Sedona, and it is on the cusp, and some of it is actually within the vortex at the Boynton Canyon. It's magnificently beautiful.
yep, I accidentally became the astrologist there. I didn't
I
apply
love that
for
you accidentally became the astrologist there.
Yep, so I'm there. But then I have my little healing center, Sedona Healing Energy, and I like the acronym is SHE. And so now I get to work with my youngest son, Ryland, and so he's just such a gifted sound healer. Today we did a beautiful nervous system reset in the other room that I had showed you where all the paintings are, the sound studio. So I offer many different kinds of healings, not just the intuitive, the one I was describing. We just offer many different things that seem to really help people, and again, especially the brain work with the trauma, helping people to get that
Beautiful.
trauma loop out, working with the nuclei within the brain in the electronic equipment that Ben Lone Tree created. So, yep, I'm here 7 days a week, literally working pretty much every day, which
Wow.
is an
Well,
honor.
there's a website that you're on as well. So will you tell us the website?
Yeah, SedonaHealingEnergy.com.
Okay, and that is, I'll put that in the show notes for everybody.
Yeah, thank you.
Kimberly, this has been such a fascinating conversation. I learned a lot of things today. I
Aw,
heard some things that I've never heard before. I want to thank you so much. I know you were
aw.
nervous coming in. I
Shy.
know it
I'm a
takes a
shy person.
lot to be
Yeah,
vulnerable
yeah,
and to
thank
share
you.
these experiences because you're opening yourself up to like, what the heck is going to come at me now?
Oh,
So thank you so much for doing this, but also more than that, thank you for your part in what you are doing to help wake
aw.
up the collective. I know I'm just a broken record saying this, but you know how badly this is needed right now.
It's needed, but it's getting better. I really believe, so many people are awakening, they're becoming conscious, they're realizing what's important, and how hard, it could have been if we were, just a few of us. So there's many of us now. And so that's exciting.
And I think everybody who is watching, it's one of you. So thank you to everybody watching for your part in this.
Bless you. Thank you. Thank you.
Next up, check out this playlist of other NDE interviews. Please like and subscribe. It really helps this channel to grow so I can bring you more content. Thank you for watching. I'm so glad you're here.